Come one, come all, and join us on the Social Justice Network here at FeteLifeStation.com for Outside, Inside, How Incarceration Impacts Families. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Hosted by the Queen Nzingha.
The Nzingha. Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining me here on FeteLifeStation.com for another segment of Outside Inside, How Incarceration Impacts Families. My name is Nzingha, the answer. And for the next hour, I'll be speaking honestly and openly about how incarceration impacts families. During the hour, I'd like to enlighten my listeners about current issues trending in the criminal justice system, or I should say criminal legal system, and simultaneously bring awareness to families about resources available to them as they care for their loved ones behind bars and navigate the system. One of the ways I do that is by connecting families with organizations that provide that help and those resources. So if your family members caring for a loved one behind bars and need some assistance, let us know by putting your info in the chat. You can also hit me up at FeteLifeStation.com if you are someone you know has recently been arrested in New York City, and I will get back to you right after the show. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about in-person visiting and women in prison, a topic I'll be discussing during the entire month of June, simply because it seems to me that the topic of women in prison is really discussed, and I want to put the spotlight on how families are affected by women in prison and some of the issues that women behind bars face. So, let me start with in-person visiting in prisons, a hot topic now that is being discussed behind closed doors. Some forms is being discussed openly. So prior to the pandemic, I'm sure many of the listeners know, all prisons and jails had in-person visits without restrictions for loved ones or visitors, unless the loved one had a specific circumstance relating to their incarceration that may have placed restrictions on their visit. However, before the pandemic, unbeknownst to myself and probably many of you, a frightening new trend threatening to eliminate in-person visits began to take hold across the country. And since the pandemic, the trend is gaining momentum. As of March 2022, DOCCS, D-O-C-C-S, and for those of you who do not know what those letters stand for, they stand for Department of Corrections and Community Services. So as of March 2022, they put out a COVID report to update the public on the modifications prisons were making to their in-person visit procedures as a result of the decline in the overall COVID-19 positivity rate. And in their report is a notice that outlines the modifications. So as of March 19th of this year, for all contact visits, the visitor and their loved one can engage in a short embrace at the beginning of the visit only, and then at the end of the visit. In between, everybody must remain masked up unless they are eating or drinking. Everyone 2 years old and up, they have to take a COVID home test that the Department of Corrections provides, and they have to have a negative test result before they continue with visitation. Now, anybody that's ever been to a prison to visit, we already know that is a very arduous, to say the least, and frustrating process. Even without COVID, pre-COVID, it was, again, frustrating, arduous, because the loved ones visiting their loved one behind bars, they are treated as though they are inmates. So you go to the prison without pre-COVID. So every time you went to visit, for a lot of the prisons upstate, just to give you a little background, their visit is from some prisons, their visit is from 8 to 3. Some is from 8:30 to 3:30. Some are 9 to 3. So you basically had in 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. You basically had a 7-hour visit. Well, that's what you expected to have when you went up to visit your loved one. However, because the procedure, the process that's required prior to visiting your loved one is daunting. It's daunting. Now, pre-COVID, you had to, you got to go through the metal detector, you got to fill out forms, then you have to wait for the officers to stop drinking their coffee, long enough to process you and engaging in their conversations or fraternizing with each other while you stand by and you waited patiently on the line with many other family members coming to visit their loved one. And it was frustrating because they were not a lot of the correction officers were not nice. So I can only imagine now. Oh, I wanted to say, so a lot of the correction officers were not nice. And not only that, you got to the prison on time. The bus dropped you off a little bit earlier, just so you got time to get off the bus, go to the place, and get your packages or whatever, get your packages off the bus, take them into the prison. So many of the times when you went to visit your loved one, you anticipated a 7 or 8 hour, 6 or 7 hour visit. Many times you did not get into the visiting room, maybe sometimes worst case scenario, 12 p.m. in the afternoon. Right? So you got inside the visiting room and then you ended up having a 3-hour visit, which after traveling overnight, depending on where you come from, if you come from New York City and depending on the correction facility you're visiting and how far away it is, that is very disappointing and can be frustrating and can lead to other issues. So that was the process before COVID. Now the process during COVID, I understand you have to make an appointment before you even go to visit. And when you do, if you're given an appointment, you have to take a COVID test prior to going into the facility for everybody's safety, they say. Now, that's everyone 2 years old and up. So I can only imagine what is required or what that process entails. A 2-year-old, a toddler, a child taking a COVID test, all of the adults taking the COVID test. And if one person comes up negative or positive, I should say, they can't visit their loved one. Right? Now, if they are negative and they do make it inside to visit their loved one, you haven't seen your loved one in most cases a week if you go every week, or you haven't seen them for 2-3 weeks in some cases, depending on your circumstances, depending on your financial circumstances, the physical circumstances, your mental, everything. So you get in, you can only embrace your loved one at the very beginning of the visit and at the end of the visit. And not only that, because the visiting protocol has been modified because of COVID, they only allow a certain number of people in at a time. So this is what is happening now since COVID. right? So with all of these restrictions and everything else going on with COVID, I just want to throw out there that I would think that for most of you out there listening that have never been to prison, that this would be a deterrent to force you not to go to prison, to inspire you not to come across that path. But again, I understand that miseducation or lack of education and the conditions under which some of us live almost force certain individuals to go down that path. So anyway, so now with that said, the Department of Corrections, and I find it so ironic that that word corrections is even in the department, because they do not correct. They do not correct. If one thing I've learned about the Department of Correction, they do very little to correct the behaviors of the individuals under their care. Very little. So now I told you a little bit about the visiting procedures pre-COVID and post-COVID. So now, to add insult to injury, they want to discontinue, they being the Department of Corrections, want to discontinue in-person visits altogether. And that's what I want to touch on today. So the listening audience will know what they are looking at. Let's just say when they go to the polls to vote for these senators and these assembly members who, by the way, the voting is going to happen in June, on June 28th, for state assembly person in your district. And I think in August for the Senate in your district. So that's another thing I want to point out. Make sure you go out and vote so that this bill that they're trying to pass to prevent that from happening, to prevent the discontinuance of in-person visits, make sure you go out and vote. Just want to throw in there, these votes, these elections, assemblymen, assemblywoman, senator, these are more important than the presidential race, the gubernatorial race, and the mayoral race. Because most of the senators who end up being the electoral college who put the president in office, by the time we get to president, to vote for president, these people are already in place, because these elections take place 2 and 3 years prior to the presidential election. So very important that you go out and vote for these people who are running for these offices, assemblymen and senator in your district. And they're coming up and they're happening June, August. And I want you to be aware of that. We are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about this bill, what it will do for in-person visits, and how we can hopefully put people in place that advocate legislating this bill. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Check out Free Your Mind Fridays right here on the Social Justice Network. FetLifeStation.com. Free Your Mind Fridays. FetLifeStation.com. The Social Justice Network.
Have you heard about Good Call? Good Call is a free 24/7 arrest support hotline. If you or a loved one get arrested, you must call 1-833-GOOD-CALL, and you will be connected with a free attorney that will assist you with the arrest process and protect your rights. Again, that's 1-833 466-322, and you will be connected with a free attorney that will assist you with the arrest process. Getting arrested can be very scary. There's no reason you should go through it alone. With Good Call, you're never alone. We've got your back.
Looking to sell your home hassle-free? Well, contact SDH Enterprises, LLC, a national investment company that specializes in helping homeowners in any state, no matter what the issues are. Tax liens, vacant or abandoned properties, inherited homes, short sales, divorce or relocation sales, it really doesn't matter. SDH Enterprises, LLC is your real estate solutions company. So, call them at 929-251-3203 in the New York area or 901-425-1040 in the Memphis and surrounding areas. Visit their website at www.shylabuysHouses.com. That's www.shylabuysHouses.com. And remember, SDH Enterprises LLC is your source for selling your home and selling it right.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to Outside Inside, How Incarceration Impacts Families. I'm Nzingha The Answer. I'm here at FetLifeStation.com. And I'm talking about in-person visits and the bill to protect in-person visits. The bill is A4250/S2841A as in Apple. This is the Protect In-Person Visiting Bill. It's being sponsored by Assembly Member David Wellprin, who covers Assembly District 24, AD 24, covering Northeast Queens, which encompasses parts of Auburndale, Bayside Hills, Belrose, Douglaston, Floral Park, Glen Oaks, Hollis, Fresh Meadows, Belrose, Holliswood, Jamaica Estates, Little Neck, New Hyde Park, and Queens Village. So all you people in the listening audience out that live in those areas, remember when you go to the polls to vote, please, A4250/2841A as in Apple. And the other person that is sponsoring the bill is Senator Louis R. Sepulveda. He covers the 32nd District, which covers some or all of the neighborhood of Parkchester, Soundview, West Palms, Hunts Point, Longwood, Concourse, Melrose, Marsania, Mount Haven, East Tremont, and Westchester Square. So if the bill is passed, it would amend New York State correction law to proactively ensure that New York's jails and prisons cannot reduce or eliminate in-person visits in favor of video conferencing. Video conferencing supplanted in-person visits during COVID because no one was going to the prison because of the high rate of positivity rates in COVID and people contracting it. So they started video conferencing tablets, which was an excellent idea. But I don't know, somebody got the bright idea of totally altogether eliminating in-person visits, and they are advocating video conferencing. This bill also protects existing in-person visit practices in New York State prisons, and it strengthens visiting practices in jails by they want to require weekend and or evening visits so that families don't have to miss work, so that children don't have to miss school in order to visit. So that's a good thing. So with this taking place, Families are afraid. They are afraid, and rightfully so, I say, that the correctional facilities in New York are going to eliminate or reduce visiting hours in favor of charging for video conferencing, again, money. This trend is occurring in jails across the country, and it's encouraged. It is encouraged by those companies that and jails that are going to profit from it. So here we go again with profit over people. That's the American way. That's the capitalist way. Anytime you can profit from people, that's what seems to be the direction the powers that be or the politicians go in. So I want to say this is where we as the constituents who put those politicians in office, who tell us when they campaign, they make all these promises to us. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. We have to hold their feet to the fire. We have to make them accountable for everything that they're saying they're going to do. And this is where we can use our voice. I know a lot of people, including myself, are like, I'm tired of voting. Everybody I vote for, they don't do anything for me. And I agree. However, that's one of the voices or one of the ways we can demonstrate our power through our vote. But the key is not just the vote. We have to vote for people who are going to advocate for us, the people, and put laws in place that will stop things like discontinuing in-person visits. It's going to be horrible if that happens. And because I think a lot of politicians understand the devastating effects that will have on families, I honestly think that they will work hard so that that doesn't happen. So in order to get the message out about passing this bill, and let's remember, it may not affect you directly, but it will affect all of us indirectly. So you got to contact Speaker Hastie, Heastie. He is the person, the head assemblyman, who's going to determine whether the bill even gets to the floor. So we got to ask him to pass the Protect In-Person Visiting Bill number A42508 as in Apple. His phone number is 518-455-3791. Or we can telephone him. I said that, 518-455-3791. Or we can email him, Speaker, SPEAKER, at NYASSEMBLY.gov. Or you can send a tweet to Speaker Hastie and the Senate Majority Leader, Stewart, STEWART, Cousins, COUSINS, at Carl Hastie or at Andre S. Cousins. So pass A42508 as an Apple /S2841 A as an Apple to protect in-person visits in New York State law and require weekend and or evening visit hours. So it's worth taking the time to let our politicians know how we feel about this matter. And with that, we're going to take another quick break. Then when we come back, we're going to talk about women in prison.
You don't know it's me, Yankee Boy, and right now talking about Uncle Yankee pepper sauce. If you want one of the best tasting Caribbean pepper sauce right now, DM me right now or call me at 917-482-5780. Uncle Yankee pineapple pepper sauce. I will say it again. Uncle Yankee pineapple pepper sauce. Okay. Pepper.
Hi, I'm David Alexis, son of 2 hardworking Haitian immigrants, husband to a beautiful Sika warrior, and father of 2 amazing girls. I used to be an Uber driver and fought alongside fellow drivers to demand Uber pay a living wage. We didn't stop there. We were inspired to co-found the Drivers Cooperative right here in Brooklyn, and it's now the largest worker-owned business in the country. I'm running for state senate to take that fight to Albany because we, the workers, we carried the city through the pandemic as nurses, as grocery clerks, as Amazon drivers, as caregivers, and as cooks. And what do we get in return? We got soaring rent and doubling Con Ed bills. We can do better. And if you want a New York that works for us instead of real estate developers that invest in housing, healthcare, and good jobs, if you want to hold Albany accountable like I held Uber accountable, vote David Alexis on August 23rd.
Vicious personalized gifts and more. We specialize in a variety of personalized gifts such as bath towels, hand towels, t-shirts, teacups, glasses, and much more. We also have gift hampers which can be customized for any and every occasion. Vicious personalized gifts and more is an online store based in Trinidad. Our phone number is 868-488-6767. Be sure to like us on Facebook at Vicious Personalized Gifts and More.
Looking for a professional photographer to preserve your beautiful memories? Shoot Fast Productions is here to help capture those special events such as birthdays, family photos, engagements, baby showers, modeling portfolios, and much more. We offer professional services with clear and high-quality pictures using the latest technology. Capture and treasure your best moments with Shoot Fast Productions. Call us at 954-501-5040 or visit our website at shootfastproductions.com. Visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Shoot Fast Productions.
Listening is like taking a break. We never take a break. We're always on. Fete Life Station, the vibe starter. Non-stop music. 24/7.
So welcome back to Outside Inside, how incarceration impacts families here at FetLifeStation.com. My name is Nzingha, the answer. So with respect to the in-person visiting bill number 4250A as in Apple, families are afraid, and rightfully so. They're afraid that correctional facilities in New York will eliminate or reduce visiting hours in favor of charging for video conferencing. And this trend is occurring in jails across the country and encouraged by companies and jails that will profit from video conferencing. I'm going to give you the name of the individuals you have to contact so that, because we need all hands on deck to ensure that this bill is passed so that we can protect in-person and visiting. And then I have a sister that's going to share how important both in-person and visiting is and video conferencing for several reasons. So I'm not going to elaborate. I'm going to have her talk about that. So in order to help to get the message out, you're going to contact Speaker Hastie, Heastie, and ask him to pass the Protect in-person visiting bill number 4250A as in Apple. His phone number is 518-455-3791. And I also want you to know you can email us, FetLifeStation.com, FETELIFESTATION.com. If you check the chat as you're listening, this information will be posted and you'll see it. You can also email speaker, SPEAKER, at NYASSEMBLY.gov. You can also contact Senate Majority Leader Stuart Cousins at Carl Hasty at Andre. I keep saying Andre, but her name is Andrea S. Cousins, and tell them to pass A4250A as in Apple to protect in-person visits in New York State law and to require weekend or evening visiting hours. Remember, this information is on the site. So as you're listening in, please check the site and the information will be posted. I have Sister Celia Green, who's going to chime in on what she feels about video conferencing and what her comments about stopping in-person visits. Sister Celia.
Hello.
Thank you for chiming in.
You're welcome. I honestly feel that you cannot stop in-person visits. I do think there needs to be some sort of hybrid in this bill. I do think that there still needs to be a way to do the video conferencing, because if you have someone who is in fragile health, who is a little older and cannot necessarily make the trip all these hundreds and thousands of miles sometimes to wherever these prisons are located, you may need for that 90-year-old grandmother who can't get on the bus or who, for whatever reason, to be able to still see their loved one. So I agree with definitely keeping that, but I also don't agree with keeping that and eliminating all in-person contact. Because we have to remember, everyone, is a human. We're dealing with human beings. And as human beings, you want to know your loved ones. You want to see your loved ones. You want to feel like you matter.
Absolutely.
A lot of times people just want to be heard. They want to be seen. And they want you to know that they are there, that they are individuals. And, basically the same reason you say hello to your neighbors, to say, hi, how are you? I am here. I acknowledge your presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to keep that human contact. It is very important to keep that human contact. I think it may be one of the things that keeps people sane.
Yes.
Sincerely, it keeps people sane. People, even kids that go away to college, come home for the holidays because they miss their families.
Yeah.
So could you imagine you not being able to come home when you you not being able to see your family for very long periods of time? And we're talking about sometimes years. So I do think that there needs to be this in person. I think especially for young people, even for older people, there needs to be that human contact. I think that we as people, I understand it's a punishment. I understand it's a prison. I understand people may have done something.
Yeah.
The difference between someone who has done something and regrets it and someone who has done something, not necessarily unforgivable, but more regrettable, even more regrettable, is usually that one can afford a lawyer and one can't. So a lot of people that end up in prison could not necessarily afford their own legal counsel. And if you know anything about public defenders, they're overwhelmed. They don't have 5 cases or 10 cases. They have hundreds of cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to be fair or to be as humane as possible is something that we can do as human beings. And I do believe that everyone needs that human touch. Everyone needs to know that you still matter. I am not saying that what you did was not terrible or that you don't need to the crime with the time, but it has to fit the crime. Somebody that's in there shoplifting, $500 worth of something, groceries. Yeah. It's not the same as the axe murderer who just happen to have the better lawyer. You know, we've had the big names in the headlines, the Durst case and whatnot, who we know about certain people that were killed. We just don't know about them, but had excellent representation. So I do think we have to keep that in mind. I think maybe sometimes it's judged not least you be judged.
Yeah.
Is not to say, again, that everybody in prison is never did anything in their life or something.
It's not guilty, right?
Not guilty.
There are some, but not everybody.
Mm-hmm. There are some for sure, and some that it's just easy to have a wrongful conviction as well. So I'm hoping though that hopefully you have to want for your neighbor what you would want for yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
And if prison is supposed to be about rehabilitation, what are we teaching people when they go in? What are we teaching people about humanity? What are we teaching people about compassion? Are we showing compassion? Are we rehabilitating anybody?
And that's why I was saying, just to say the Department of Correction, that institution does so little to correct, or like you said, to rehabilitate. They do so little to do that. Most people are more of a criminal when they come home than when they went in. And they destroyed, not everyone, but we clearly know the lives of the people that they destroyed, because we've seen them play out their prison experience on the news media, and how certain people were treated and how others were treated. And I did a show previously where we talked about where the white guy was an inmate that worked in the law library where they did these parole hearings. And he commented on how Black prisoners are treated differently from white prisoners. And just to point that out. And I think the point you made about people being treated humanely, I think no matter who it is, that's the issue. Treating people humanely and not dehumanizing people. And I think that's not being done. I think most people, when they come home, they have been dehumanized in that process with solitary confinement and the way they treated myself. I was never in prison, but I went to visit a loved one in prison, and I was dehumanized on many occasions, and they leave you feeling worthless, or I should say this, that at least that's the intent. But everybody in prison, like you said, a lot of people are not guilty, but those who are guilty, they do the crime, they have to serve their time. And we're never saying that here outside, inside. We're never saying that. We're just saying, let the crime or the time fit the crime. Because as Celia stated, there's so many people incarcerated in prison for petty crimes that really don't need to be there. Khalif Brower spent 3 years in jail. He's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Innocent, had his case dismissed only to be humiliated and dehumanized, to come home and then to commit suicide. So that's the point we're making. We're never saying that if people commit a crime that they should not face the consequences. You should. We're just saying let the crime or let the time, the sentence fit the crime. And it's so interesting that Celia brought that up, because in the next segment, when I speak about women in prison, we're going to see how so many women are in prison simply because they can't meet the cash bail. but they're not murderers. They're not axe murderers. They're not, they didn't have a Ponzi scheme. They were not abusing children. These women I'm talking about, these are women that, had maybe misdemeanors in some cases. And again, still not saying that these people that if you break the law, there's consequences. We know that. But again, let the crime fit the time, or let the time fit the crime. And as Celia said, to take away in-person visits, to completely take away or stop and discontinue in-person visits, and just to have video conferences, it's going to be total chaos. And I mentioned before that I researched what human touch, what the psychologist said about how important touch is, human touch. And she basically said that we can sustain life with human touch, but we cannot sustain our life without human touch. That is something we cannot live without. And just think about that. And I want people in the listening audience, this is so serious, and we really need to have people go out and contact FetLifeStation.com if you want to find out further how to support this bill or how to contact the assembly person or the senator. Please, let's do it. Let's try to make this happen, because you may not be in a situation where you have a loved one behind bars now, but you may at one point in your life be in a situation where you need to have a loved one make sure that they can have an in-person visit and have video conferencing. So let's not think of ourselves. Let's think of people who are in this situation and what they are experiencing, or what they will experience if they totally eliminate in-person visiting. So just remember, please contact us at FetLifeStation.com to find out more about how you can support the passage of this bill. We'll give you the information for Andrea Cousins and Carl Hasty. We will give you that information on how you can contact Speaker Hasty and ask him to pass the Protect In-Person and Visiting Bill. Again, number 4250, capital A. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
¿Has oído hablar de Good Call? Good Call es una línea directa, gratuita de apoyo para arrestos las 24 horas del día y los 7 días de la semana. Si usted o un ser querido son arrestados, ustedes deben de llamar al 1-833-GOOD-CALL y nosotros les conectamos con un abogado gratuito y le ayudará con el proceso y arresto y protegerá sus derechos. Nuevamente, eso es 1-833-466-3322 y se le conectará con un abogado gratuito para ayudar con el proceso de arresto. Ser arrestado puede ser muy aterrador. No hay razón por la que debes ir a través de eso solo. Con Good Call, nunca estás solo. Te cubrimos las espaldas.
Have you heard about Good Call? Good Call is a free 24/7 arrest support hotline. If you or a loved one get arrested, you must call 1-833-GOOD-CALL, and you will be connected with a free attorney that will assist you with the arrest process and protect your rights. Again, that's 1-833-466-3322. and you will be connected with a free attorney that will assist you with the arrest process. Getting arrested can be very scary. There's no reason you should go through it alone. With Good Call, you're never alone. We've got your back.
Listening is like taking a break. We never take a break. We're always on. Fete Life Station, the vibe starter. Non-stop music. 24/7.
Okay, welcome back to Outside Inside, How Incarceration Impacts Families. I'm Nzingha the Answer here at FeteLifeStation.com. So I realized that May is the month we celebrate women, but I didn't get a chance to focus on women in May because there were so many other issues trending at the time. So I thought it important for me to use the entire month of June to shine a spotlight on how families are impacted when women are sent away to prison and some of the issues that women in general face when they are in prison. Just to name a few of the issues that women in prison face: separation from children and significant others, lack of substance abuse treatment, physical and mental health care, vocation and educational programs, sexual abuse, disparate disciplinary practices, inadequate prenatal care. Many of the times when women get arrested, and again, I always like to make this disclaimer, not saying that people who commit crimes should not face consequences. However, let's be humane about this. A lot of times women, when they are arrested, they are with child. They are pregnant. Too often, they do not receive the prenatal care that is required for a woman who's pregnant. So you punish the woman for doing the crime, but you have to take another perspective. You have to not punish the baby or the fetus, because that child, if going to be carried to full term, needs to be treated properly and needs to receive, the mother needs to receive the proper prenatal care in order for that child to have some semblance of normalcy with respect to their health when they give birth. Many of the times women in prison, they don't get packed, they can't get packages, because if they owe the correctional institution a fee, or if they were fined and they didn't pay the fine during their last trip to jail, the correctional facility intercepts any money that they receive for their commissary. And when the women go to buy food, they find that their money is not there. And if they try to take an alternative route to get food, because they're pregnant, they need nourishment, they need food. And a lot of times, when women, they find that their commissary has been intercepted by the correctional facility for failure to pay a previous fine, what is the next thing, the next human thing to do? You ask another inmate, another person behind bars with you, if they can get your package for you and give it to you. Well, only to find out, I learned that in cases like that, the person that intercepts the package or that gets the package for the pregnant mother, they are penalized. The pregnant mother is then put in solitary confinement for violating the rule. How crazy is that? That's like double punishment. You're already in jail serving your sentence. Then you want to punish them again. So many things have to change. And these are things that women face that a lot of people don't know about. So I read an article in the Marshall Project, which is a journal that a monthly journal or weekly journal that I get, and it says over half, 50% of all women in the United States prisons are mothers. 50% are mothers, so that 58% are mothers. So that means over half of all women in the United States prisons have left the child at home, which means other concerns, okay? Other concerns come into play. And many of them are waiting trial. Why? Because they can't afford bail. They can't afford bail. Half of the women are in jail because they could not make the bail. And these women are parents of children under 18 years old. Parents of children under 18 years old. And out of the women who cannot afford bail, 2/3 are women of minor children. Minor children. So this survey that I read, it was conducted about 20 years ago. But guess what? In 20 years, it remains the most recent national data on this issue. 20 years, they haven't even researched this issue, or there's no data on the issue, which speaks volumes to me about how women are the most overlooked persons in this system of mass incarceration. 20 years since any data or any research has come out on these women who have these minor children. So, and jail incarceration rates for women rose 26%. And ironically enough, incarceration rates for men have fallen by 5%. So women are slowly but surely climbing to the high ranks in being incarcerated in this country. So I think with that information, we need to begin to take a closer look at the circumstances of the incarceration of women. And why the hell, in a country where there's supposedly so much emphasis placed on family, we are locking up the very nucleus of the family. As the number of these incarcerated women grows, so does, guess what? So does the number of children impacted. Because if these mothers are going to jail, they're leaving their children behind. That means they're impacted by the loss of their mom. Here in this country, supposedly the richest country in the world, millions of children, millions are suffering the consequences of both the mother and their father's sentences and this country's tough on crime practices. And also I found alarming about this data is that there are more women in pre-trial detention. Get this, y'all. Y'all listening? According to the data, there are more women in pre-trial detention than there are women in both federal and state prison. And why are these women there? Most of them are there because they cannot afford bail. Thus, the bail reform bill. This is why people started to look at this and realize these people are in jail because they can't afford bail. Some of them, again, like I said, they're in jail for petty offenses, a minor drug offense, probation, a violation of probation. And that's not even to count in, if you count in the women that are under local authority or the women that the federal agencies pay local jails to house, that's an additional 12,500 women. We're talking about the women that ICE and U.S. Marshals where they have fewer dedicated facilities to hold these women. So they contract out with local jails to hold over 5,000 women. So that makes the number of women physically held in jails even higher. So how does money bail that women can't afford affect families in more ways than one? The kids have antisocial behavior. They have mental health problems. They have drug abuse, school failure, and punishment, and unemployment. So there's always talk about punishment, but never, very little talk about prevention, rehabilitation, or education. So I think it's time that we need to gear this conversation about incarceration towards prevention. Women and men alike who are taking this path to incarceration, which is destroying, and ultimately it's destroying the fabric of this nation. Because we all know the fabric of every nation begins and ends with the family. And if families continue to be dismantled and ripped apart, that says a lot about where we are headed as a community, as a society, and as a nation. So we need to start looking at why we are locking up these women. And as I said when we came back, June is going to be the month that I focus on women in prison. And I'm going to be sharing some of the information, some of the issues that women face in prison and how their families cope, how children cope with the loss of their mother, how a husband copes with the loss of his wife, how a mom copes with having a daughter in prison. Because remember, if the woman is gone and she left children behind, somebody has to take care of those children. Somebody has to be those children have to be in the care of someone who loves them and who's going to take care of them. So that's going to be one of my focuses for the month of June. We're going to continue this discussion, and I'm going to share so many points about women in prison because, like I said earlier, they just don't get enough of the spotlight. And since I'm talking about women in prison, one thing that comes to mind, the need, baby formula, a shortage of baby formula. So if we're out here with the shortage of baby formula, can you imagine what's happening in prison with these women? Because a lot of prisons, women have babies in prison, and they have this whole system in prison where the babies they stay in another part of the prison in other states. I think like in Iowa, I think. Don't quote me on that. But when I hear about baby formula, a shortage of baby formula, it just brings to mind that I have not heard one government official, politician, doctor, or nurse convey the message that lactating moms do not need to fret about a shortage of baby formula because they have the answer to the shortage, breast milk. And I'm very well aware that everybody cannot breastfeed their child for various reasons, but at least let remind people that there is an alternative. There is an alternative. Maybe I'm making it too simple, but I'm just saying. So hit me up in the chat or email me if you want to chime in or comment about this, and we could talk about it next week because we have run out of time for today. So that's it for me. I want to thank Sister Celia for her awesome comments. I'm Nzingha the Answer, giving you the business here on Outside Inside, How Incarceration Impacts Families on FetLifeStation.com. This and every Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me. And remember, The only way we can get the families the resources they need is by connecting with them. If they don't know about us, we can't help them. So please, want everyone in the listening audience to spread the word about Outside Inside and the work we do here at Social Justice and Fete Life Station. And remember to tune in every Thursday. Until then, if you need to reach out, call me 347-671-7169 or contact me via email at fetlifestation.com or nrobertson@sjnus.org. Take care and remember, what makes us great is not what we do for ourselves, but it's what we do for others. Have a good night, take care, and be safe. My name is Nzingha, the answer, and I hope you will join me next Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Until then, be well, stay safe, and take care.